Hey, we are the Joneses, and we are on a mission to plant a church in the River Heights neighborhood of Winnipeg, Canada. But we're taking a bit of a different approach.
We believe that mission happens best in everyday spaces where ordinary people are doing ordinary things with gospel intentionality.
And for us, this has taken the form of a dream to open up a coffee shop in the River Heights neighborhood of Winnipeg.
When we first moved to Winnipeg a little over a year and a half ago, we were living in St. Boniface, but we quickly felt called to the River Heights neighborhood. We were not sure why or what for, but we felt clearly that this is where God was wanting us to go.
Yeah, River Heights is a neighborhood with some pretty hard soil, to be honest. There are a lot of young families and young professionals who live here, but there are also a lot of parks that are often left empty, and there's a severe lack of relationship here in the neighborhood. And our neighbors constantly drive out of their driveway in the morning and they'll pull back in at the end of the day, but they won't leave their home. And you could honestly go years and not meet your neighbors here.
But even in the midst of relational disconnection, we've seen some consistent rhythms in this community, one being a love of good coffee.
Shortly after we moved to Winnipeg, I took a job as a barista at a local coffee shop. And one thing I noticed immediately was that this is a space that is different from a Tim Hortons or a Starbucks, where people come in, they grab their coffee, and then they leave right away. Working in a specialty coffee environment, this is a space where people linger. They want to build relationships with the people behind the counter who are making their coffee. They want to know that the people that are making their coffee care about the coffee itself and the work that they're putting into it, but care even more about the relationship that they have with the customers. Very quickly, right off the bat, we started building some pretty close relationships with some of my coworkers and some of the customers that were coming in as regulars at the cafe. But one of the most meaningful and deep relationships that we have been able to build has been with a young man who lives actually just down the road from us. This is a guy who grew up in the church as a pastor's kid and over the years just became disillusioned with the church. Leaving the church, he's felt a lot of relational disconnect and doesn't have a ton of friends that he would call close. And while he wouldn't be likely to step foot back in a traditional church building anytime soon, he does regularly show up at the cafe. And he's someone that I've been able to have plenty of conversations with. And over time, we've started to have deeper and deeper conversations about faith, where I can get to know a little bit more of his heart and the struggles and doubts and the questions that he has. And through this, Katie and I actually have been able to both connect with him by having him into our home for meals and game nights. And now we're at a point where we've been able to connect him with some of our church family.
And many others just like him have found themselves in our neighborhood, lacking relationship and needing desperately to hear the good news of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we believe that discipleship happens at the speed of relationship. And what we have seen is that in our setting, the cafe is a space where relationships are built. And not only that, but it's actually a place that's conducive to letting relationships flourish and grow. So our hope with Heights Coffee Company is that this would be one of those spaces, that we'd be able to create a third space, a space between home and work, where people who are craving belonging and relationship and community, but are looking in all the wrong places, can come and find that.
Our prayer is that as we love our community well and cultivate meaningful relationships through Heights Coffee Company, we would come to see disciples made and people come to profess faith in Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior. Jesus said, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." River Heights is a community with deep needs, spiritually, relationally, and practically. Through Heights Coffee Co., we believe God is creating a space where people can encounter His love through word and deed every day.
But we can't do this alone. The harvest is there, but we need laborers. As we depend on and trust in God for strength and wisdom, we also need partners who believe in the power of the gospel to transform lives and the everyday stuff of life. So we would invite all of you and your churches to come alongside us in continued prayer and financial support and join us in the work that God is doing here in Winnipeg.